welcome back to Ant on the Move podcast, the Ant on the Move podcast, I should say this clearly. So this will be the final podcast of 2019, and so in this podcast, I want to talk a little bit about the top places to visit in 2020. So in order to do that, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I've gone to a couple different websites, and we're going to just talk about a few of their top 10 places they suggest that you go. So the first place we're going to look at is the Travel and Leisure website, and the article is called, it's under Trip Ideas, and it's Best Places to Travel in 2020. So we're just going to take a quick look at just their top 10 places. Now remember that Travel Leisure tends to be a little more high-end if you're wanting to spend a little bit more money on maybe an experience, not just maybe seeing the local area, but more of a luxurious experience. So that's what Travel and Leisure is a little bit more pointed towards. They do try to mention some budget things as well at times, but they're really focused, from looking at their magazine for the last couple of years, they're really more focused to a more luxurious market than maybe some other groups. So first on their list, let me see if I can get to it here. I just scrolled past it somehow. Number one is something I don't know how to pronounce, actually. It looks like Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. So it's spelled Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And the picture is interesting because the main picture they're showing for this place is a huge peacock. I don't know if this is made out of flowers. I'm not sure what this is. It's obviously a park somewhere. But yeah, so this is the top place in Ethiopia. Their number one suggestion of where to travel. And I'm trying to figure out why exactly. It mentions the palaces there. And referring to the, looks like the Prime Minister? Yeah, the country's reformist Prime Minister, who has a Nobel Peace Prize. And he opened the 19th century palace to the public and tapped local artists to build a public garden. So it's kind of the, being able to see the palace and being able to see the garden is kind of the highlight of visiting, this area in Ethiopia. Now I have to mention that having spent a year in Africa, I was on the west side of Africa. There's a different culture. There's just a different things are so different in Africa, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just different. It's a different culture, and I enjoyed it though. There's a lot of amazing foods, a lot of just things that you can learn from people in Africa, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, South, North, wherever. There's so much to learn and to get to see there. Just different animals that we don't get to see in a native or natural habitat you can see in Africa. So that's definitely worth going to. Now let's see what's second on their list. Wow, these are some places I have never heard of. I guess I should have done my research on it. But the next place, I'm just going to mention that it's in Peru. I cannot pronounce it. Check out the Travel Leisure article. I'll make sure to leave a link to it. But it is known as kind of the White City. It was named for its gleaming structures made from sillar, Sillar, S-I-L-L-A-R, which is a volcanic rock, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2000. But it looks like it looks almost like a cathedral or kind of palace or castle in the picture, but that looks very interesting. I'm not sure how far this is from Machu Picchu, but if you could make both happen, that'd be interesting. Definitely check that out. Oh, number 3 on their list is something I can actually pronounce, which is Asheville, North Carolina. Let's see why they say Asheville. Why for 2020, why would you go to Asheville, North Carolina? And it says that, it has this small town feel, but it also has the big city culture. I think Asheville is really working on their food culture, as well as art and things like that. So that, if you're into those things, I'm not a huge fan of art myself. I'm not really into brewing, things like that. But if that's what you're interested in, then Asheville is supposed to be a big spot for that right now. Fourth, Hey, not even a city name, that helps. It's just the country of Austria is highly recommended that you visit there. Now, for a while, Austria was kind of I don't know, almost kind of neglected. People went to Switzerland or Germany, but Vienna and Austria just in general was kind of, it's beautiful, but no one really wants to visit there. You don't stay there very long. And the country has started to reinvent itself, and they've been pouring a lot of resources into cutting-edge arts institutions, which they're widely known for. Great musicians there, and art. And so they've been working on that. So, also, they're supposed to have a Vienna Philharmonic. So that'd be amazing to go hear some music there. So that is their 4th place on their list. Number 5 on the Travel Leisure's top places to visit in 2020 is Baja Sur's East Cape in Mexico. So if you're interested in the beach, and it looks like the Four Seasons Resort opened in October, the special resort there. And if you're into the resorts, go there. All right, let's move on. Number 6 is Barbados, which I've heard is very popular. The island is only 166 square miles, so it's kind of a small area, but it would be fun. You'd be able to get to see the entire island, perhaps. It has British colonial roots, and it is largely famous for its powder white beaches. So if you want to hang out on the beach, there's also, it looks like, some great food, some music, jamborees, things like that. Surfing and diving, if you're into those type of things, you're an active traveler, then those would be a lot of fun to do. All right, moving on. Number 7 is Beijing, China. Last year, the largest airport in the world opened in Beijing, so it'd be fairly easy to get a flight there. The airport costs an estimated $25 billion, and the airport is a 7.5 million square foot behemoth. So yeah, it's predicted to greet some 70,000 million travelers annually, which is very hard to comprehend. But yeah, they say Beijing, they don't really tell anything else really about why, just like their state-of-the-art stuff and whatever. But yeah, they say to go to Beijing, China. I guess just to see the airport, that'd be kind of cool. That's cool on my list. Number 8 is Big Island, Hawaii. And despite the eruption of one of the volcanoes in 2018, you kind of feel some tourists have been a little skeptical, which might be why I actually know quite a few people who've been to Hawaii recently, so maybe tickets have been a little cheaper, trying to get enticing people back out there. But the lava flow has stopped, and so there's, not as big of an issue. There's a new, the island's biggest resort, which is the biggest resort opening in years, is set to debut in January 2020. And, a lot of cool things. So if you're interested in Hawaii, you like the islands, you like the beaches, head out to Hawaii. All right, number 9, we get a second country in Africa. We get Botswana. And so there's a lot of different safari lodges. Botswana is one of the good countries to go to if you want a well laid out safari trip to be able to see the native wildlife. So it says you can see sightings of the rare African wild dog, elephants, zebras, and rare birds. So that would be fun to do. If you're wanting to do an African safari, head to Botswana. And then number 10, we have Boston. So it says that Boston is becoming the city's next great hotel city. I don't understand that exactly. But it looks like they're revamping a bunch of older buildings, trying to make these chic boutique hotels and things like that. So I know Boston is really big on schools, obviously, and trying to kind of bring back some culture, and they may not bring back, retract that, just kind of getting up to date, a little more up to date to draw more people there. And so, yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, I would kind of like to go to Boston, but it's a little cold this time of year, so not happening. But yes, that rounds at the top 10 of travel and leisure suggestions for 2020. Now, moving on, we're going to look, and they actually have 50 on their list, but we don't have time to cover all of those. Let's go on to the other place I was going to look at. The other website is Forbes. They have a list of 20 top destinations for 2020. We're again just going to look at the top 10 of those, which I will have to keep count because they don't have them numbered. What's wrong with you, Forbes? You don't have things numbered. All right, we'll see if we can keep track of how many I've done here. All right, so the first one that they suggest is Las Vegas. There's a flurry of excitement in Sin City, as always. The NFL draft will be there on August 23rd through 25th, and there's just lots of things to see and do in Las Vegas if that's up your alley. Second is Tel Aviv. You can get to see the ancient city and modern living, where it meets in this bustling beach city along Israel's Mediterranean coast. There's also some UNESCO designated a white city zone, which is home to more than 8,000 Bauhaus style buildings, the largest such collection in the world. So that'd be cool. Let's check out Tel Aviv. Third on Forbes' list is Macau, which is in China. So they're observing their 20th anniversary as a special administrative region of China. They did that on December 20th. Since Portugal transferred sovereignty to back to China, or back to them. I'm not sure how that works exactly. I actually wasn't aware of this. But anyhow, so Macau is more accessible than ever. Unlike most of China, U.S. citizens don't need a visa to come there. And a new bridge makes it a snap to travel among the cities, though there are some restrictions. So Macau would be a cool place to go. All right, next on the list, number 4 for Forbes, is Nashville. They're also getting a lot of hotels. What's with everybody building hotels? Do we need more hotels, really? Whatever. But the Nashville Zoo is also quite interesting, and there's supposed to be a museum, National Museum of African American Music. That would be interesting to visit. And the Music City, of course, just always has things going on throughout the year. Next on the list is the the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. Hurricane Irma did devastate the region quite badly, but there's a lot of regrowth. Things are happening very quickly to get things back to the standard that they were prior to the hurricane's impact, including the Ritz-Carlton St. Thomas, which reopened last November after a $100 million renovation. And there's another hotel, the Rosewood, something set to debut in January. So check that out if you're interested. Oh, something that's up my alley is Okinawa. I'm very interested to visit there, but not this year. With the Olympics happening, it's not really on my horizons. I kind of want to stay away from Japan this year, I think, with the Olympics happening in July, and then Paralympics, I believe, happening in August. It would be a great place to visit. Maybe be a little bit cheap. Well, I don't think anything would be cheaper. Everything's going to be in a high demand. So I would not advise going to Okinawa this year. Maybe in like September. No, not even September. Maybe November or early part of next year, or early part of 2021 might be a safer bet for Okinawa. All right, the next on their list is Dubai. If you're wanting to see luxury, Dubai is trying to show luxury. So that's all I have to say about that place. They're also hosting the 2020 World Expo, so that'd be cool to go see if you are interested. All right, and then, of course, another city in Japan is Tokyo. Tokyo is going to be very packed. Very packed. So if you want to take that chance, go for it. I know the Universal Studios Japan's Super Nintendo World is opening, but I'm not sure I would go there this time of year. Or that time of year, just probably not the wisest idea. All right, next on the list, this comes at number 8, if I'm counting correctly, is Edinburgh. So this is the capital of Scotland, and there's a lot of cool things that happen there, such as the famous Festival Fringe, some museums, and I'm not sure what else is on here. It's like really quick, but like there's tons of like these new hotels. Why are people building so many hotels? I don't know. This is crazy. I just didn't realize so many hotels were being built like everywhere. But if you're interested in seeing new hotels, check out all of these places on this these list. Next, number 9 is Sonoma. There were a lot of wildfires in the wine country last year, and that has caused a lot of problems for people out that way. But the Sonoma International Film Festival will take place in March, and the Sonoma Speed Festival is a little bit later in May. So that'd be cool to go check out if you are able. And then rounding out, number 10 is a city I don't know how to pronounce. Riyadh? I have no idea, but it's in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia recently launched tourist visas for the first time, hoping to draw more than 100 million visitors by 2030. One of the places that they're mentioned is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's also museums, golf courses, Formula E racetrack, and a 15,000-seat arena. So a lot of things happening, a lot of places to go. So that's on the, if you want to spend a lot of money on a trip list, Travel Leisure and Forbes have you covered. So I'll make sure to link both of these articles so you can check them out and see if these are places that you would want to go. But we're going to take a quick break for a commercial. Sorry about that. And then we'll come back and talk about some cheaper places to visit. All right, so we looked at kind of the ritzy, expensive places to visit. We're going to look now at, it's called Scott's Cheap Flights website. He has a list of 20 of the best places to travel on cheap flights in 2020, which we're just going to look at his top 10 as soon as the other. And on his... Now, he doesn't have his number necessarily, but the first one that he has listed is Japan. And he says that Japan typically does have a reputation of being one of the more expensive destinations in Asia. But he says that, what is he saying here? That they're hoping to add new routes to increase competition, bring prices down, and offer travelers more options. So they're supposed to be adding 13 new routes between the U.S. and Tokyo's Haneda Airport. So that could be very good because there's two main airports in Tokyo. I forget both the names of them at the moment. The one is the Haneda, the other, I forget the name. But that is helpful to have those. And with the Olympics, it says that American Airlines, Delta, who else? Hawaiian Airlines, and there was someone else. United Airlines will all be adding flights from their respective kind of big hub cities. So those would be wise to check there. But yeah, he has Tokyo as his first spot, or Japan. So his next is Buenos Aires. So why is he saying Buenos Aires? One of the reasons is that United had suspended their nonstop flights out of Newark there. So there's been some issues there, but Norwegian has expanded flights, has added more, and so yeah, according to him, you can get some fairly cheap flights to Buenos Aires. Now his third is Nairobi, Kenya, which... It's hilarious that you can fly all the way to the east coast of Africa for less than it costs to get to the west coast of Africa. But Nairobi is a much more popular tourist destination. It's more developed, there's more infrastructure there, and so there's just a lot more people going back and forth, whether from Europe, where you would get a connecting flight into Kenya, or from the US itself. So Kenya, there's a lot going on. There's the famous giraffe house where you can go stay in this fancy house, hotel thing, and be able to see the giraffes in the morning, and a bunch of safaris, and just much more developed, a good tour, much better tourism happening there. And so Nairobi, Kenya is one of his list. Fourth on his list is Hawaii, which we know they're trying to get people back to Hawaii, which we saw in one of the previous articles. And so they are trying to lower the prices to be a better incentive to get people into Hawaii. So that's a good thing to remember. The fifth on his list is Casablanca, Morocco, which I would not have thought. I'm not really sure what Casablanca... I know it's northern Africa, but I'm not really sure what all you do in Casablanca. But that sounds interesting. Be able to say you've visited... North Africa. Maybe go in like the winter time, so it might be a little bit cooler, not as hot and harsh. That would be interesting. Alaska next on the list, and I've heard that Alaska is very expensive to travel from. I don't know exactly the details of why. I'm just guessing a lot of people don't travel to Alaska, especially like in the winter time. Be very expensive, just difficult to for planes to fly with that much cold and snow. But there's some cheap flights from like Detroit to Anchorage, and Seattle to Anchorage, of course, and Albuquerque. So If you're looking for something cheap, Alaska might be a good place. London, UK, you have plenty of airports to choose from in the UK, so there's a lot of cool things to do. You can go see Big Ben. You can see the Queen's Buckingham Palace. There's just so much to see and do in London, UK. It's like, why wasn't it first on the list? But let's see, from New York City, non-stop to London, which is awesome, you can get a flight for like $328, which is not bad at all. So that's really very reasonable, because it can cost me to get from here to New York City. It cost me $300, and I'm near Orlando International Airport, so that would be tough. Next on the list is India. So it says that for a while, Delta had ceased flights. Back in 2015, they had ceased flights from New York to Mumbai in India, but that they have restarted that here at the end of 2019. So that's helping to add some competition, be able to drive prices down. So if you're interested in India, just be careful about driving. I've heard it's a little dangerous to drive in a car, or ride in a car, or drive in a car in India. And then I've kind of lost count of how many we're going to do, so I'm just going to do one more. And it mentions Tanzania. So Tanzania is still, again, in East Africa, and it's fairly easily connected via Kenya Airways, it looks like. Because Kenya Airways, if you want to get to many places in Africa, Kenya is a good place to fly into, to then pay a little bit cheaper of a flight to travel into, maybe say West Africa, South Africa, so forth. Because flights can be a little bit cheaper if Kenya is your spot of origin rather than like the US or something like that. So yeah, if you want to see Tanzania, that'd be pretty cool. So that's that website, just kind of telling you where some places are that's a bit cheaper. And then finally, we're going to look at Lonely Planet, their best in travel 2020, their best value. And so they're talking about the best destinations, journeys, and sustainable travel experiences for the year ahead. We'll see if we can just hit the first 5 or so, because their website's a little bit strange. I'm not sure what it's doing. Okay, so number 1 on their list is East News somewhere in Indonesia that I cannot pronounce. A little bit off the main, it's not on the main island of Indonesia. It's a much smaller one. And you'll notice that there are fewer crowds in this area than, say, like Bali or the Gili Islands. So that's where they suggest going. They also have a big lizard. So if you're interested in big lizards, they say go in there. So yeah, okay. Let's move on to the second one. The second one is Budapest, Hungary, which would be interesting to go. I would love to go to Hungary. I'm not sure which way you say it, but that would be amazing to visit Budapest and see all the history there in Hungary. Just the ruins, just see what life is like, because life is so different from like the western part of Europe than the central part, and of course even from the eastern part. There's so many differences, and to kind of see that mix, with Austria-Hungary in that area would be so amazing to kind of stroll through and see what life is like in that area. See the parks, the art, that'd be so cool. The next on their list, number 3, is in India. So there's a cool tiger reserve, there's monkeys, I think there's elephants, there's all kinds of cool things, there's temples, lots of cool things you can do in India. Just, again, be careful driving, things like that, just want to be on the safe side. Their 4th destination is actually Buffalo, New York in the U.S. I was only a few hours from Buffalo a couple years ago. You can see the recently restored Mike Lloyd Wright houses of the Graycliff Estate and Martin House complex. That'd be interesting to see. And of course, Niagara Falls is not too far away, so that would be a fun spot to go. And of course, there's things both like kind of winter sports to do and more summery type things to do. So any time of year would be awesome to go to Buffalo. I don't know how to pronounce this 5th one. Azerbaijan? I do not know how to pronounce this. It's between Georgia and Iran. It has a Caspian Sea waterfront and is home to ambitious architecture, fresh museums, and cosmopolitan air. I don't know much about this country, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll have to read more about that one. But the 6th on the list is Serbia, which would be interesting. Very interesting to visit Belgrade. There's a lot of outdoor adventures, spas, ancient monasteries, and monolithic memorials from the Yugoslavia era await you in Serbia. That'd be cool. Ooh, a train ride through the Balkans. Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be cool. Okay. Number 7 is Tunisia, which is on the north coast of Africa. Kind of, I can't tell if this is off, like Malta is kind of the closest thing. It's like right underneath Italy. It's like kind of parallel to Rome to some extent. So that would be interesting. It's cool. Kind of, Morocco is Algeria, and then Morocco is close by. But it says this is where Luke Skywalker first stared at twin suns. So I don't know what that means, but the Saharan dunes, where I think Star Wars. So there might be some Star Wars influence there. All right. Next on our list, number 8 is the Cape Winelands in South Africa. That'd be interesting to research and learn more about. There's wineries. There's some amazing mountains and some cool villages and some B&Bs, things like that. Looks fun. All right, number 9 is Athens, Greece, and I highly recommend going to Greece. I have never been to Athens, but I went to Thessaloniki, which is a little farther around on the coast, and it's amazing. A little bit quieter, I think, than Athens. But the cool thing about Athens is that once you get there, a lot of things are free. It's like you can visit the Parthenon, the Acropolis. There's some things you have to pay for a bit, but some of the things are free. So that'd be cool to see, like the Byzantine Church, the National Library, University of Athens. So many cool things to be able to see, especially like the Acropolis. I highly recommend. I think this should be number 1. You should take a tour of Athens. That'd be amazing. All right, and then last on the list, and this is the only one other than I think Japan that repeats, is Tanzania. This is Zanzibar in Tanzania. What's interesting about this is that you'll get an unusual internal passport stamp there, especially if you're arriving on the ferry from mainland Tanzania. So that's pretty cool. You get 2 passport stamps for the price of 1, which is cool. But on the island's north and west coast, you can see a beachside accommodation of all kinds of prices that will seem scarcely credible if you tried to do the same in the Caribbean or Pacific islands. Sometime I would love to see the east coast of Africa. That would be amazing. I've seen the west coast, the beach from a couple different spots now, but I'd love to see the east coast. That'd be amazing to see that. So, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick run through of these magazines, online articles, top picks for where you should travel in 2020. But what about you? What do you think? What would be your top trip? Like mine, feasibly at the moment, would be like Atlanta or Boston, or maybe Toronto. Those would be kind of I can see that happening maybe in the next year. But what about you? What do you see happening? Where do you see yourself traveling in 2020? There'll be a link that you can go to my Instagram page and send me a DM or leave a comment on the post that will be about this podcast and let me know where you plan to travel in 2020. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. It was a bit rambly, but thank you so much. Have a great rest of your 2019, and we'll talk to you on the next podcast in 2020.